slurs don't happen until after dinner anyway. You're goddamn right. You can say all sorts of other slurs, but I suspect Republicans quickly got their fifis hurt when a bunch of trans girls started calling them fags. Yeah.
I think they're gonna teach me how to be at one with the live stream, attuned to its flow.
Like, I'm straight up... You saw this happen, Jenny. I straight up had my comments that I left on my video get nuked. Which begs the question, why are Republican men so triggered by being called fags? Because they're fags. We all saw what happened at CPAC with Grindr. Like, that is the thing that happened. When CPAC happened, it crashed the Grindr servers in the local area. There's nothing down low about this. You mean the men in red states who watch gobs of trans porn are also fags? You have no fucking idea. Oh, what's this? Republicans secretly love what they publicly hate? What do you mean to tell me? Republicans love transgender porn. A lot. With more than 4.7 million transgender porn-related Google searches each month, do Republicans represent those searching the most? The answer seems to be a clear yes. To the shock fucking horror of abso-goddamn-lutely nobody. Like, look at America's glowing red dong. Look at that. Look at that shit. Oh, gross. Look at this she-male search popularity by metro area. Femboy. Google search. The top 20 most trans porn obsessed states. Texas. Wichita Falls, Texas. Who the fuck could have guessed that? Georgia, Kentucky, Missouri, Kansas, Virginia, North Carolina, Illinois. Illinois is kind of a standout, but Illinois got a lot of deep red to it. Chicago is kind of like a major offset to that. Mississippi, Tennessee, Ohio, Indiana, Arkansas, Iowa, Louisiana, Michigan, Oklahoma, Alabama, Florida, Pennsylvania. You just described almost the entirety of the American South right there. That is a full-on list of states in the Rust, Bible, and Southern belts. These aren't blue states, with the exception of Illinois. But Illinois is, like I said, it's an offset of Chicago. Like, Washington ain't on here. Oregon isn't on here. She-male, tranny, femboy, and ladyboy. Oh my god. If they saw trans women as women, they wouldn't be so ashamed. That's the thing. They do. I know that they do. Because they'll treat us publicly. They'll treat us like women publicly, like they treat cis women privately. I know this to be a fact. As a matter of fact, I would assume most trans women know that to be a fact. That may not be something that they've really realized or rationalized. But if you know a misogynist, someone who has been misogynistic towards women privately in the past, they'll say the same things about you publicly that they will say about women when they think when nobody's listening, or when nobody who's going to push back on them are listening. But it's the same shit. They'll say the same shit to us that they would say about women. But it's just another one of those examples of, and I legitimately hate using this term, but hypocrisy. I hate using the term hypocrisy because a hypocrisy, in my mind, carries the implication that if you point out the hypocrisy, then that acts as some kind of gotcha. But we're beyond that point anymore. You can't point out hypocrisies as gotchas anymore. Because they don't care. The whole thing about fascist rhetoric will other a subcommunity of people by describing them both as being powerful enough to destroy society, but also weak. You know, they're destroying the sanctity of marriage. For example, they'll say shit like that, but then in the same instance, they'll hype themselves up. You know, we are strong. We're going to defeat these, you know, these radical lefties. We're going to defeat these, you know, these gender warriors. But they're destroying society. The weak and simultaneously strong argument from fascists. That, you know, that's another example of hypocritical thinking, and pointing that out isn't going to deter anybody who believes that shit. And then you've got examples like this of this, like, red states are secretly the most obsessed with looking up trans porn. You know what the immediate excuse to this is? Oh, well, of course, people like this are going to search this stuff up because they're doing research. You know, they're, you know, send me the link to this absolute depravity so I know to never go there. That's what that is. They'll say, oh yeah, it's just a bunch of people doing research. They're researching, you know, what the the gender warriors are doing. There's always an out. You know what I mean? They've always got an excuse for everything. It kind of ties in to, you know, that whole thing that Republicans, conservatives, you know, alt-right, MAGA, you know, rightoids. There's this, like, this bent of Christian persecution. You know, white replacement theory is a real big talking point right now. You've got people like Elon Musk over-tuning his dog shit AI to bring up, you know, white genocide in South Africa in every single command prompt. These right-wing, like, persecution-obsessed people that are going to persistently harp on how the left are secretly the ones wanting to control every aspect of your life. And this is like classic projection shit. You know, accuse the enemy of what you're doing actively right now at this very moment. But it'll be shit like, you know, those lefties don't want us talking about this. You know, those lefties want to silence you. Damn, bitch, which it worked. It never does, obviously. The conservative mindset won't acknowledge that what they're doing and what they're advocating for is a form of oppression, is a form of controlling and domineering society. They won't acknowledge that it is that because they don't understand it to be that. There are some who do. There are some in positions of power, some talking heads who are fully aware that, yeah, what they want to do is a form of state-sponsored authoritarian control over the population. But they don't actually have principles. They don't have beliefs. They want power. They'll do everything that it takes to garner and maintain power. So they're going to use the thing that is most advantageous to them to gain power and control. Donald Trump himself said it, that if he was ever going to run for president, he was going to be a Republican, run as a Republican, because Republicans are easier to fool. Republican dudes on their way to research hot single bears in their area. I still feel justified in calling closet case Republicans faggots, regardless of when they decide to subconsciously treat us like women. Yeah. Because, like, That whole like, oh, we can always tell. No, the fuck you can't. You can't always fucking tell. I get gendered correctly by 95% of the people that I deal with on a daily basis. Y'all can't fucking tell. I'm sorry. Just because I literally have a trans flag in the title of every single one of my streams, that's literally me baiting. If that wasn't there and somebody just pops in and I was being completely silent and just like focused on gameplay, not making any not making any noise, most people don't know. They can't tell. They think they can always tell because their preference is trans women that they can clock. That's not a bad point. I think with a lot of these people that's entirely accurate. Also, with people like that, it's more than likely a dominance thing, like a power play. Like, they get off on the idea of being the bigger, stronger, more powerful man. Because it all comes back to power and control. Passing as a concept is bullshit. It really is. Because so many of the... Even cis women don't pass anymore. Yeah, that's basically what I was about to just say. Like, the whole transvestigation thing, I was seeing like transvestigation bullshit getting big on YouTube back in like 2013, 2014. It was just, it's the same shit. The we can always tell crowd have been looking for the same fucking thing. One of the big ones, I always liked breaking this one out. One of the big ones was, if a woman's ring finger is longer than her index finger, then she's actually a she's a tranny. She's a transsexual. It's faint. My index finger is longer than my pinky, or is longer than my ring finger. Like, there are no fucking biological constants. That's not a thing. But that's one that, like, the transvestigators used to pull out all the fucking time. They would look at these photos of women's hands and be like, look, her fucking, you know, this one finger is longer than the other. She's actually a man. There's the finger. There's the finger longer than the other that says I'm a real woman. It's bullshit. Well, I'm a tranny on one hand at least. Left hand, my ring finger is visibly longer. Right hand, they are exactly the same. Look. Ring finger's longer on my left hand. Once again, there are no biological constants. I'm glad you said that, Jenny. Because, yeah, on my left hand, my ring finger is longer. People are weird. There are no weird symmetries. I'm not symmetrical. I'm not either. Nobody's symmetrical. Symmetry in humans isn't really a thing. We're bilaterally symmetrical, but side to side, like, you know, your right hand, your dominant hand is bigger than your offhand. But no, what I was saying is, most people, most Republicans, most conservatives, alt-right, MAGAs, they're never going to acknowledge, even if they do subconsciously understand, that what they are advocating for is in fact a system of oppression, that they want to enforce a system of oppression on other people. They'll never acknowledge this because it is part of their framework. Their entire moral foundation is predicated on the idea of converting as many people to their faith as possible. Because most of these people are Christians. Most of these people are Baptists or evangelicals or some variety of conversion-based Protestantism. They think it is their moral imperative, their religious imperative, their faith-based imperative to say, you cannot behave in this way because that goes against the word of Christ. They fully believe this. They're never going to accept that what they're doing is a form of oppression, because they are fully committed to their form of oppression. And they don't view it as oppression. They don't view the oppressive state of their lives, the repressed nature of their very being, as being a form of oppression, because they willingly sign themselves up for this. The whole thing about faith is argue with a Christian for long enough, and eventually you'll get to this point. They will say, no amount of evidence can change my mind because I have faith. I have argued with enough Christians to know that that is a universal fucking constant. They are never going to admit that they are wrong because of faith. That's what faith is to them, is being able to continue believing their fairy tale even in the face of insurmountable, undeniable evidence to the contrary of everything that they believe. They pride themselves on being able to say, I can see and comprehend everything that you've just explained to me. I reject it categorically because it's not in the Bible. That is what faith is to them. Cool, I can use the same logic. Funny thing is they see that logic. They will see that logic a mile away for literally anything else. It's an entire field known as Christian apologetics. They can spot that shit. They know exactly what you're doing if you start trying to use apologia. They're trained in that shit. Most American Protestant ministries, like, in order to get your, I don't know, like, degree, I don't know what the fuck they call it, in like your like higher learning, going to your fucking Bible school shit to become a pastor or a, you know, whatever. A lot of it is based on learning how to adequately apply apologia. It's Christian apologetics, and it is a major foundational cornerstone of Christian faith, American Protestantism. But with this like apologia infecting everything, especially in conservative politics, because conservative politics are based so intrinsically in Christian faith. And because of this weird notion that the oppression, the self-inflicted oppression of a religious institution upon one's life is not actually oppression, therefore, me attempting to enforce my religious ideals onto another person, that's not me attempting to oppress them. Because why would I oppress myself? Why would I inflict oppression upon myself? I am merely spreading the word of God. That's where you get this, like, love the sinner, hate the sin bullshit. Or I'm sharing my Christian love. And Christian love is me trying to guide you to the light of God by telling you to, stop being a disgusting transsexual. To them, behaving in such a way as to use the legal system to force a a framework onto everyone is not oppression. Because again, they willingly continue to force that system onto themselves, and they don't see it as oppressive. But if you tell them that they can't do that, if you tell them that they can't come into your business and start ripping signage off the walls that says we support trans people here, or, we're non-discriminant, or Nancy fucking Mace going around and posting mocking photos of herself, like pointing derisively at gender-neutral bathroom signs. It's okay for Nancy Mace to do that. But if I were to tell her that she can't do that she cannot come into my place of business and start ripping down pride posters, she would consider that oppression. She would consider that a trampling of her, not just her constitutional, but her religious rights. Because it's her religion that has informed her that she is allowed to do that. So what you end up with is this really weird situation where in the Christian's ideal world, I am not allowed to express myself as I desire. Because the way that I desire to express myself goes against the teachings of whatever particular faith happens to be in dominant control right now. But the people that tell me that I can't do that, they are not considered oppressors. They are only considered oppressed when they are not allowed to oppress. And they're never going to acknowledge that. Because they, again, as I keep saying, they 100% are committed to the oppression in their own personal lives until they think nobody's looking. But they don't consider what they want to do to everyone else to be oppression because they do it to themselves. Does that make sense? That's also the reason why conservative politics are so fucking dangerous and infectious. Because I want you to perform an experiment on your own time. I'm giving you guys some homework. What I want you to do is I want you to look at cases of alleged oppression of Christian faith, of people saying that their religious freedoms are being violated. I want you to look for lawsuits of people trying to claim that they're not being allowed to practice their religion. I guarantee you, basically, every single time, it is going to be a case of, I am not allowed to use my religion to impose upon someone else. Strip back the flowery language, strip back the apologia. What it is every single time, without fail, is going to be, I was not allowed to impose my religion upon another person. That is the crux of their argument. It's always because they weren't allowed to discriminate. Yeah. I don't need to go looking. I see it all the damn time. And of course, the gotcha comeback is always going to be, oh, bake the cake, bigot. That whole, the one bakery wouldn't do the cake for the gay couple. It was stupid of them to sue that business. I'll acknowledge that. It was very stupid of them to try to force that business to make the cake for them. The second they tell me, no, I'm not going to do a cake for a couple of faggots. Say no more, fam. I'm out of here. I don't want to give you my fucking money now. Yeah, I wouldn't want to give them a red cent. That was stupid. It really was.